Hello and welcome to this piano pandemictivity. We're going to start looking through a favorite piece, Clair de Lune from the Suite Bergamasque of Claude Debussy. And I think it will take a few videos to get through this because there's much to say. So, of course, this is a very popular piece, deservedly so, because it's lovely. However, with pieces that are very popular and not extraordinarily difficult to play, they get played by people of all levels, and often we hear them, shall we say, played in a way that doesn't fully do justice to what's going on, and we even may get used to it and come to accept it that way and miss out on some of the things that are very, very important. So I'm going to work through maybe the first 2 pages in this video and then continue later. So 2 things that I would say are tremendously important on the first page. First of all is rhythm. Rhythm is maybe a little bit counterintuitive because the aesthetic of Debussy has this kind of wonderful floating, gooey, amorphous world with no sharp edges, and the idea of strict counting may seem to run contrary to that, but that's not the case at all. Debussy not only is very rhythmic, he was obsessed with rhythm. A friend of mine has done some research on a mathematical ratio known as the golden section. It's a particular mathematical ratio that's approximately 0.68, and has found that many of Debussy's pieces are actually structured around this mathematical proportion. If you count, say, 8th note beats, you'll get to the place at the golden section at this one mathematical spot, and it will be the loudest note in the whole piece. So he was extremely aware, and his music doesn't just float around in an amorphous world of goo. It's very counted. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to start by counting. So in 9, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I didn't count that right. I played it right, but I didn't count it right. We'll talk more about the duple when we get there. But the first thing I notice when I'm counting is that, of course, it starts on an 8th rest. 1, 2, 3, and then beat 4, because it's tied, is naturally the first strong beat that we would reach, and we don't strike it there. So the strongest thing in the whole measure that we actually strike is beat 3. That's the only real beat that even gets played. Everything else is off the beat. Okay, so that means it doesn't go da da da. It's and then I'll get to the next topic of sound in a moment. So everything is counted. If it's a triplet, then you do it that long. If it holds for 2 triplets for 6 beats, you hold it that long. Here, for example, we do nothing for 6 beats, but hold, 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 hold. Okay, the duples here. You have to get used to counting cross rhythms. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. The duples have like a feeling of stretching whenever we encounter those. There's one. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. And they show up later in the piece as well. It's very difficult to talk someone into playing these rhythms naturally. It's like trying to write a paper on how to have a good feel in swing. It's something you just have to listen to and feel. You're not going to argue your way into it. You're not going to read your way into it. You're just going to hear it and feel it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do the underlying work of trying to, for example, count it or clap it or whatever. You definitely should. But ultimately, it will sound good if you're feeling it. So, number 1 is rhythm, and that's the case throughout the other piece. The second issue, and this one I hear this missed all the time, and that is the issue of these ties, and therefore the issue of their sound. Now, notice that is tied, that is tied, that is tied, that, and we could go through and mark lots more, but you get the point that everything's tied. Now, here is a little theory I have, okay? You ready for this? This is a revolutionary theory, and that is that when there is a tie, it's supposed to result in a type of sound. All right? We're supposed to hear them. Supposed to hear them. Anyhow, and this is probably the main thing that I hear in this piece is people ignoring the ties and not trying to hear them. So, for example, we hear... Even, you can actually see the hand lift. All right, that is not what Debussy wrote. What he wrote is, there's this tie over the bar line, and that should still be sounding as you play this. All right? I would argue it's the most important thing that should be sounding. So therefore, right there, I want to get plenty of sound, particularly on that top F, so that then I can move this to here and hear that sound. And then that will resolve to here, but then that one will carry over the bar line so that I hear this. Ah, and that resolves to here, and that one goes over the bar line and resolves to there, and that C goes over the bar line to there. So let me play a little bit of this and I'll try to show you the ties as clearly as I can. Still going. Still going. Okay, so the ties are the most important thing. I hope that comes through on the video a little bit. I know sometimes the quiet or sustained sound of the piano doesn't transfer that well to the phone, but in real life, there's no mistaking it. So that means plenty of sound here, very pianissimo here. Plenty of sound here, very pianissimo here. And so on. There, 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 there. You've always got these things you have to play, and then the things you have to sneak in underneath them. Let's keep going and see if this pattern continues. Let's start here. We have all this wonderful D flat, and then this is the one that's going to tie over. Okay, so what I want to be able to hear on this downbeat, I want to be able to hear, I want to hear the F resolve to the E flat. So let's try that. That was difficult. I didn't get enough of that. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay. And I would use the fact that this entire measure is sort of flooded with D flat to let myself bring the sound up a little bit so that I get an excuse to play quite a bit there, and then I get that over the bar line. Get enough of that so that you hear, there we go. And that one goes over the bar line. One thing I sometimes do is I might actually tie this lower F and hold it there so that I get just a little bit more. And then I get rid of it. This one over the bar line. Again. Over the bar line. And we'll turn the page in a moment. Here, these duplets, this is a good example of the stretching quality of the duplet rhythm, because this is the, kind of the high point on this page. Go to there. Okay, so very important. So on this page, rhythm and ties. Rhythm and ties. And ties are to be heard, not merely held, but to be heard. Who cares if you're holding something on the piano and you can't hear it? I thought music was sound. I thought what mattered was that we can hear it. I don't really care that my finger is holding down one or the other of these buttons. That doesn't do anything for me. I'm interested in music as sound. All right, good. Let's turn a page. Okay, there we are. We're just going to look at this page for the rest of the video, down to here, and then we'll continue next time. So now we have these great chords. And again, here's our duplet rhythm. So remember 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There's that duplet again. And there's the tie. Okay. So the thing here is just to try to get these two bars into one bar. And the important thing, first of all, voicing the top. Okay? That top line. It needs to have the ping. Okay? Don't just play. Okay? I gotta say, when I hear students play like this, without voicing, particularly when they're at the age where they're auditioning for college, I just think, who have you been studying with? Do you guys not know how the piano works? The piano has a range of sounds available on each key, right? And so we use them to shape the sound, and it's important to bring out the melody. So, I'm sorry, I don't actually say it sarcastically like that in real life to people, but I am baffled that they get to the age of 18 and don't know this. You're supposed to sound good when you play the piano. It's like meeting someone who's a baker who does everything well except for the flavor. So you hear that? And everything else in that chord is going to be fairly pianissimo. Is pedal. It would be cool to hold the E flat all the way through, but I think on many pianos, by the time you get to here, that collection of sounds begins to obscure the line. The line is important. That is to me more important than the accumulation of sound. So in this room on this piano, somewhere around in here and somewhere around in here, I'm kicking loose that bass note in the pedal because it's no longer worth it. Is it possible to get the E flat in the sostenuto pedal? Yes, it is. One thing you should know is Debussy didn't have that on his piano and wasn't interested in it. So, sure, do it if you want to. Do whatever you want. But be aware that somebody, especially if you're in college in music school where people love to show how other people are incorrect. Somebody might point that out. And it will be delicious. It will be a delicious takedown. But anyway, what would it sound like if I did that? So I'm catching this in the middle pedal, right? So there it is. It's still ringing. That's kind of cool. That's cool. That's a cool sound. I would do it if I wanted to. I absolutely would, because I don't care what anybody thinks. And nobody is in a position to wreck my life if they want to point out that I do something that's not historical, so I don't actually have to care. But if you are in music school and you have professors who will get on your case, you might want to rethink it. Anyhow, I might do it, I might not do it. It would depend on the piano, it would depend on the room. One time I was playing in Russia, and I had this whole thing planned with this great Bach transcription that had some low note I was going to catch in the sostenuto. I got to the concert hall, the piano didn't have a sostenuto pedal. Oops. Yeah, better rethink that one real quick. So you always have to be a little bit flexible. All right, so anyway, we got this tie over the bar that we want to make sure to hear, because ties are to be heard, not merely to be seen. So let's do that one right there. And if I want to lean on that last chord, I think it's okay. What does that say? Okay, that helps me get a little more sound. Just a little bit late, a little bit of emphasis. And then whenever I have those ties, whenever I have them, I kind of sneak the bass note in a little bit quieter, so that you hear that soprano note, as opposed to, notice now you can't hear it, all right, because I didn't protect it. So. And here we have, again, the same question of how much of the bass can we actually keep. It's going to depend on the room and the piano. I do think that we have a line here, A flat, A natural, B flat, C, D flat, E flat. That's a pretty cool line. It sounds meaningful if you bring it out. If I voice the top, the thumb here, and just kind of give a little focus to it, you can kind of hear that it's meaningful. Okay, definitely it's interesting as a line. The problem is, does that create too much sound? And what about pedaling through? I'm a little bit unsure. It's not terrible. It's kind of messy. I'm not so sure about that. Really not liking this. So it could go either way. Even if I wasn't going to pedal all the way through it, I would still show a little bit of melodic quality on that bass line, and then go for the soprano after that. So in a moment. So, yes, that bass line is interesting, and I can bring it out just a little bit. One other thing that's kind of cool is we had the tie here as we started this, but now rest, 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 rest. Okay, so I actually want to play those rests. I want to play them forte. You ever try to play a rest forte? Okay, here's what that means. Sorry, bad, 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 bad. So I'm making sure really to get off of the right hand stuff as opposed to I'm not really being clear about where the upper chords are disappearing. And I actually want to be fastidious about that. So I'm trying to be as clear as I can that this sound is gone here, and this sound is gone here, and this sound is gone here, etc. Because that's interesting. Something, 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 something. Nothing, da 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 da. Nothing, da 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 da. Nothing, da 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 da. Nothing, da 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 da. Nothing, da 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 da. Something. Ha 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 ha. Okay? So there's a logic to those rests. Okay? So when we get here, finally, and again, a question always, can I pedal through this whole measure? That's close. My instinct is to shake out a little bit of the pedal near the end of the measure. Again, it would depend on the room, depend on the piano. I kind of like this more like a Stairway to Nowhere. It vanishes. Okay, so removing the pedal sort of helps with this diminuendo, as opposed to. See, I think it's gauche to play this forte right here. I think that chord is way better as piano. Want to hear all of them? Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. And this one, by the way, if you really do it, it goes out of order. I love that it jumps back. It's so fun. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And on it goes. So these first 2 pages, the notes are not difficult. They're, in fact, easy for amateurs and hard for professionals because they're not so hard to play, but to control and to think about everything that's going on and to get a clear sound, it takes a little bit of work. This is really a great piece, and it's absolutely worth this level of attention and love and care to get a great sound. So we'll start right down here on the next one and continue through this piece in the next installment of Piano Pandemictivities. Everybody take care, be well, be safe. See you later, bye.